how to change these perceptions out there?
Well, and going back to actually what Susan said today, you know, realistically, the manufacturing report stated that 6%, only 6% of young people aged between 16 to 23 are considering a career in the manufacturing sector. That's right now. Actually, more worryingly, only 3% of young women are considering a career in manufacturing, and that's compared to 23% who are considering a career in manufacturing in digital and tech. So there is a real education piece that we need to do. The manufacturing sector as a whole needs to position themselves as an actual employer of choice. There still is those outdated perceptions of what a manufacturing career is, and we need to flip them on their head, because essentially we've heard the great stories already in terms of the fact that our manufacturing sector have a range of career opportunities, that there is a lot of diversity, that it isn't all the sort of traditional labour factory floor, but there's also those range of innovative and tech. So we really need to get that message out there, and we need to get that message out to that audience, the essential target audience. But I have to say, our target audience is key, but their influencers are extremely important as well. So actually, whilst Michelle was saying about print media actually not being where they're in the space, actually their parents who are actually funding them and supporting them still are. So it's a sort of multi-layered media effect that you need to put in place. But sort of as members of the IPA, we get access to sort of audience and data insight, and actually can tell us what our new workforce, the Generation Z of 16 to 23 want. And actually, it was very revealing. The last IPA Touchpoints report in November last year stated that actually the most important things in their life, apart from their family, friends, and mental health and well-being, are actually career opportunity, saving money, and actually one that was actually quite high up there was having a job for life. That actually resonated higher than travelling abroad or actually being in a relationship on the actual scale. So it was quite interesting to see. Generation Z are actually quite a sensible bunch of kids, and they're realistic as well. Right. They actually have got it. They want the work-life balance. They want a job they enjoy. They want to know progression that's there for them, but they actually want work-life balance. So I think the manufacturing sector has a lot of opportunities. There's a great story to tell, so it just needs to be told. And then in terms of actually getting it out there on the media channels that they consume, is absolutely, 13 hours a day. These young people are consuming media and multi-layers. 13 hours a day. So it's essentially to be on the right channels and engage with them in their space.
Thanks, Emma. Can you imagine if somebody walked into this conference today accidentally, didn't know anything about us, and they saw that first question? What do you think they would think this conference is all about today? That could be misinterpreted. Carol, could you handle that one? How do you plan to attract more women?
Okay, interesting phrasing. I, as a female, went into the industry, and when I look back, I think, why was I interested in it? Desmond's made clothing for Marks and Spencer's, and at that time, I actually made clothing at home. So I had an interest in textiles and fashion. So that allowed me to go into that industry and share that passion. And I think you should not underrate the importance of the fact that you produce something. We see our students, and we talked about, the difference between primary and post-primary. Our Business Beginnings programme, P7, they're age 11, they are running their own businesses for 6 weeks, and they all produce something, they manufacture. The girls are every bit as engaged in that process as the boys. So what we then have to look at is, how do we then start to lose it as we go through post-primary? So I think we have to then maybe look at the case studies that we're providing to teachers. All manufacturing is not the same type of manufacturing, so there's actually a lot of different things that are very interesting to women. So without necessarily stereotyping it, bring in that full breadth of all the things that you make, because that process of production and making is actually very exciting. So I think it's going in and then understanding, particularly during that key stage 3 phase, that's where the young people get exposure to industries and make their actual exam choices. So getting to them, for us, it's about getting you guys into the schools to be able to talk to them about your career paths, what took you into that industry, and the more women, and there's a lot of women in this room, the more women that go in from an industry and are role models, it's something that the young people can see. As a young woman, if you look at a woman in the industry, then that's something you believe you can become. So I think it's so important you role model and interface and bring the case studies into the classroom.
Okay. Thanks, Carol. Who wants to take this one? Adele, is this one for you? My daughter just graduated, but she does not have a science or engineering degree. Can she still apply for a manufacturing job? By the way, she's fab.
Yes, well, for us anyway, we would have no barriers to entry. It might be a different route than our graduate programme, but definitely we would encourage all applications. Great, she's fab too. That always helps. But definitely we would have no barriers. That way it would
So what sort of jobs could they do then?
It would really depend on the person, where their skills are.
Yeah.
We have jobs in manufacturing. We also have jobs that are part manufacturing, like logistics coordinators, who deal with that kind of thing, but also deal with the manufacturing process.
Gotcha. We'll have a quick fire round. We'll go to Michelle and then pass the microphone. You can pick a question that you want. Michelle, any of those tickle your fancy? What do you like? Yeah, what about that one was up there, sorry to bounce you with this one, about, do we need a better definition of what manufacturing is?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. So we're an organisation. We're there to sell or help sell. Okay. That's the line. But within our manufacturing supply chain in Ireland, historically people just think, getting your hands dirty, climbing into a machine, fixing a machine.
Yeah.
It is completely different to that. There are so many different roles, from micro technicians through to procurement heads, planners, through to health and safety staff, right the way through to distribution and logistics. But I don't think that our communities are just quite aware of these roles. So we're very mindful that the folk that do these roles within our organisations, they're our biggest asset. So we're trying to promote from within and really show the different job titles that there are.
So is that back almost to your point about when you're pushing yourself out on the media, illustrate what it is and show it's not necessarily dirty hands and brute strength?
Yeah, and you touched on the female point of view as well. We are really proud that our senior leadership team is actually more female directors than male, who have all worked their way throughout the operation, through really strong succession planning and really strong development programs. So we're trying to encourage females in manufacturing, and that there is no barriers to them. They absolutely can get to the top.
Thanks, Michelle. Emma, have you picked a question yet? Everybody else is getting a lot more time. Poor Michelle was bounced there. What do you like?
Okay.
I think it's on, okay? Don't worry.
Okay.
Just held it quite close to your mouth.
It says there that some schools may shy away from jobs in manufacturing. It's not in line with their targets for further education. I think, again, because there is this, there's not a clear understanding of actually what manufacturing is, and what manufacturing industry need to do is actually give the schools the actual toolkits to understand. So make it really, really easy for them to put manufacturing as a career opportunity in front of their kids. If that is providing them, I've been around a number of careers events recently, and I honestly say we have to step up our gear with how we're trying to engage our children at these events, because they're very traditional. We need to start getting them more engaging. We need to provide the careers advisors with the proper tools and stuff just to make it easier. So if that is video content, explaining how your operation runs, what's it like, getting young people who are actually within your organisation to actually become those ambassadors. We really need to just make it really, really easy and clear, and I just don't think we ever really tell a good story. So that's really what we need to do. We need to make it easy for the career advisors to put the message out.
And what do you mean? If say this was a careers event here, how would you make it less traditional?
It really is about, you can still have the traditional methods, because essentially there might be a flyer that you want them to take home for their parents to actually understand, but actually become more engaging, actually have areas where they can actually really get to grips with what work is being done, get to speak with actual people who are there doing the job, and our kids really consume more video content than anything else.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's really actually just making it easy for them.
Sad but true. Sad but true. Rachel, pick a question. It's nearly our comfort break.
Within reason, pretty much all be covered. The sort of key theme that's coming out really for me is, well, apart from the fact marketing and HR are coming together like never before in terms of brand and representation, and that's part of the re-education piece, is that's where it's going, and people don't apply for jobs with you anymore necessarily unless you really work quite hard to get them. But the massive thing for me, with every company suffering from Coca-Cola right down to little old GES Group, is collaboration. It really is about collaborating with the likes of the education authorities and bodies, the schools, the parents. I think I read a statistic that children, particularly girls as young as 5, are starting to turn off from careers in engineering and manufacturing. But pre-5, they don't see that as an issue. So it is going younger, but really resource-wise, we can only do that together. I don't think it's something that an individual organisation can do alone.
If you excuse me for stereotyping Ballymena, would you regard that as a rural environment? How do you reach out to more rural environments?
I was waiting for the Ballymena hay. That actually, well, it depends if whoever asked the question in the room. From my experience, we have a facility in Ballymena and Mollusk. And Ballymena, we find for engineering actually to get quite a lot of applications from. You do have quite a large agricultural community. You do have a large sort of the school environment actually do tend to do quite a lot in terms of vocational careers and hands-on. But I think locality is coming into it a lot for that as well. So obviously within Ballymena, because it's a smaller town, we're quite well known locally. But if you're trying to engage talent to come in to the city, maybe from a rural environment, that's maybe a different question. And again, I would say collaboration, going out to the schools. Budgets being cut, we've had to put buses on as well to allow the schools to come in.
I like that buses idea. We have 5 minutes left. I'm going to give you all a minute at the end. Carol, you're first up, and you can answer a question or just say anything that you want to just sum up this whole debate while I sum up some of the really practical ideas that we've got here today. Excuse me if these are old hat and you've all heard these before, but this idea of actually paying yourselves for transport from schools, whether it be primary schools or secondary schools, social media platforms trying to hit the young people where they're at, and using accessible types of social media, which means short, which in my house would be about 9 seconds. And I suppose the other thing is the parents. And, hands up here, I did an arts degree. I have never really talked to my kids about a career in manufacturing. I have 3 daughters at home, except when they did the Young Enterprise and they started talking to me. So, Carol, your final thought.
So I really would encourage that. It's getting parents and young people to have those dialogues. I love the Industry 4.0 concept. I can understand that from maybe manufacturing, it's like, well, it's nothing new because it's what you've always done, but it's a new hook. It's a new hook for careers teachers and for young people to get behind. It also brings all the excitement of digital and tech into a different industry, and that's what we need them to understand, that the skills they are developing are transferable, and they are transferable into your industry. So I'd encourage you, come volunteer with Young Enterprise and get that message out there.
Rachel?
I think get stuck in. I think get stuck in is the key message. So I know there's a
Get stuck in.
Get stuck in. Yeah, this sort of doing a strategy and hypothesizing and doing documents and brochures, and it's all needed. But the only way to get the message out there to the young people, I think, is to physically show up.
Gotcha. Emma?
It really is about knowing your audience. We really there's synergy there between what the manufacturing industry need and our young people coming out, and it really is about knowing your audience and how to reach them and really, really engage them on their channels, and be aware that you will get caught out. So whatever you put out there, make sure it's authentic.
Yeah, actually my top tip for social media is make sure it's social. that if they come back, and even if it is not necessarily abusive, but even if it is cheeky or something, just engage. It's called social media for a reason. Be social.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's really one element
Yeah.
of sort of recruitment marketing, the social media, and you don't always have to be actively pushing out recruitment messages either. You know, talk to them about what you're doing and your CSR, what your well-being, mental health and well-being policies are. They want to know all that stuff. So it's really about knowing your audience and really creating the right messages on those channels.
Thanks, Emma. Michelle.
Yeah, open your doors. The most exciting thing we have is our plant, our manufacturing operation. Open your doors, invite your local communities to come in. We, numerous times a year, we invite friends and family of our current employees to come in. We work with local organisations, local groups, local schools. We're not offering them jobs, we're not telling them about jobs, but someday they will remember us and they will come back, and that is how they will join us eventually.
And if folk are saying, oh, health and safety, public liability.
Just make it happen. Just don't tell HR, just do it.
Get stuck in.
Thank you.
And Adele.
Persistence, especially where the schools are involved. Don't expect your first call to a school you'll get a visit. It takes time building relationships and knocking doors repeatedly before that returns into visits down to the factory.
Short and sweet. Adele, thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, our panel, thank you all.